So this is introductory video in which we are going to discuss what's database, why we need database, and what are different languages which helps to store data in database. So today we are producing a lot of data, and we can see that on a website known as Internet Live Stats. This is the on this website we can see these are the Google searches that are done by people only today. The tweets sent today, the blog posts written today. So all these are the data that's produced by us, the users. So to manage this data, we need databases so that we can store that data. And the databases can be, you know, very difficult to decide in which database we should store our data to. There's a lot more options for databases like MySQL, MongoDB, Redis, and many others as well. But to understand that what database to use or what query language to use based on our requirements, we'll be able to understand it after this video. And so let's start. So in databases, we have two types of query languages, that is SQL and NoSQL, where SQL stands for structured query language and NoSQL stands for non-structured query language. So as per the name, we can understand that SQL is used to store structured data and non-SQL is used to store non-structured data. So SQL is a language that is used by relational databases like MySQL, and NoSQL is a query language that's used by the databases like MongoDB or Redis. So there could be many other databases, but I have mentioned these only. And in SQL or the MySQL server, to store data, we use tables. We store data in form of tables. So table structure is required to store data in MySQL databases, and in NoSQL servers or the databases that uses NoSQL as a language. There we can store data in form of a document. In document structure, we can store data. SQL servers or the databases requires a schema or structure predefined. We should know all the columns that we need to store our data. Whereas in the case of NoSQL, it's more flexible to changes. Like there's no such point that you have to store data in form of tables or anything else. We can store data based on our requirement, and SQL is very great with managing relations because the data is stored in form of tables. So we do not have to care much about the relations. But in NoSQL, when the data is very big, it's very complex to manage relationships in NoSQL as compared to SQL. SQL is very mature language, whereas NoSQL is very new and shiny. And SQL is costly because it requires more infrastructure, and we need to have pre-knowledge about what we are going to store to define the structure. Whereas in NoSQL, it is easier to scale according to our requirement. And where we can use SQL is many big firms are using SQL to store their data because they know the data that they need to store. They have predefined structures. Whereas in case of NoSQL, any fresh startup can use NoSQL as their database language because it is very easier to scale based on our requirement. We can scale it up or down and it's very easy and very flexible to changes, because when we are new we do not know much about how we are going to store data, what data we are going to store. So in that case, NoSQL is much beneficial as compared to SQL. So that's it. Thank you so much.